The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Good morning and welcome to this edition of Insights. We're here today to talk about the Thunder Bay International Film Festival. I'm joined by Megan Goss. She works with the Northeast Michigan Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative. Megan, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing quite well. How are you, Aaron?
Good. So we're going to talk about the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary itself and how it's a marine protected area. So what exactly does that mean?
Marine protected area is a term that is used to describe any type of area that is protected, be it a federal regulation or a local regulation, and it can be for a cultural or a natural resource.
So when a body of water or something like this gets that recognition, what does that mean for it?
It can vary. It depends on what the marine protected area is for. It can be for a cultural resource. So here in Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, it is designated to protect the area. So it's a 4,300-mile sanctuary designated for the protection of shipwrecks. So a cultural resource. In other areas, it can be for a natural resource, so a unique species. If we think about our national parks or marine reserves or things like that, there are lots of ways that we can have protected areas that can be both on ground, terrestrial, like our national parks, and then also national marine sanctuaries, which will be going to protect an area, be it a cultural or a natural resource.
So what makes it the designation of cultural exactly?
Well, the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, it's here to protect the shipwrecks that were here from the legacy of all the maritime industry and trade that occurred here in previous centuries. So it connects back to that local history, and just the sheer amount of shipwrecks that are here really has that cultural connection.
And what do you think the importance of having this designation is?
I think it's important. There's a lot of opportunities for ecotourism, and it also ensures that these shipwrecks and the historical legacy connected to them will be around for years to come. So future divers, future people that want to learn about this history, they'll be able to go and enjoy the wrecks in the same condition that they are today. It really allows the preservation of this history for future generations to come.
So you think the importance of this maybe be the education standpoint?
Yeah, I definitely think education and connecting to these cultural resources. And I think in general, having a better protection over these areas for their unique cultural connections, but then also the natural interest in them as well. It's really important for future generations, and it allows for the preservation of these areas.
Cool. And so moving on to the International Film Festival that's held here annually, a lot of these films are based on marine protected areas. So what kind of topics do those explore?
Well, in some of the films, you'll learn just more about what a marine protected area is. And it could give insight into that, how it can be for a natural resource or cultural resources. And then it'll allow to see how these areas are used in different ways. Recreation can change, and it can really highlight how unique of a blue planet we really have. Across our great big blue ocean, there's so many different resources, and it's really important to protect and preserve for future generations, because what we enjoy today, I hope 100, 200, 300 years from now, will have a great legacy through these protected areas, and people will be able to continue to enjoy them.
Cool. And so say someone wants to come down and check out some of these films. Why do you think it's important for them to maybe learn more about like a marine protected area like we have here?
I think it will highlight areas where people might not be even aware that they exist. So prior to moving to Alpena, Michigan, I'm originally from Southern Illinois, and I didn't really know about the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary and this unique cultural history that's here in all of these shipwrecks. So I was really shocked when I moved up here and joined the Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative and got to learn more about this community partner in this really unique area. And it allowed me to learn more about a part of our history in the United States that I really didn't know about. And I think having an increased awareness about the different resources and why it's important to protect them will just increase our understanding of our local place and really help us to really understand why we're living in such a unique environment. And it just allows us to have a better story to tell. These sanctuaries and these marine protected areas, I think they just showcase our unique stories here on our big blue planet.
And as someone who works at the sanctuary, what do you think the importance of is being able to work at a protected area rather than just, an open body of water?
Well, I'm technically housed out of the sanctuary, so I don't work directly for the sanctuary, but I feel very privileged that the sanctuary is a leadership team partner within the Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative. Our regional hub here gets to connect area students, K through 12 classrooms, with the sanctuary that surrounds us, and then also all of our wonderful resources here in Northeast Michigan. So getting to see students connect firsthand with these marine protected areas, it's really great to see them be so excited about this place, this wonderful place we live. And it's very easy at times to take it for granted, but getting to see how much kids are excited by this and how we have visitors coming here, it's a really great place to be here in Michigan. And then it's also just a great time to see how much change is going on and how much people are becoming really aware of our wonderful resources that we have around us.
And the film festival has been drawing a lot of interest from people from all over Michigan to come here, maybe from all over the states. Do you think this is mainly a topic for adults to learn about, or do you think children can come and maybe learn more about marine protected area, kind of get into the culture of it?
I think the International Film Festival, it's a great opportunity for youth, adults, families. There's lots of great films that you can go and watch, all ages really. And to really connect with the youth level, this year we have our second annual student film competition, and students are actually making films that highlight what biodiversity means to them, so connecting to all the different life that's around us. So we have 14 student films this year, and it's going to be a really great way to connect back to our sanctuary here. A lot of high school students from Rogers City develop films that connect back to Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary and the marine protected areas. But we also have students even from around the world. We have one student entry. She's a student from Estonia who's an exchange here in California, and she talked about biodiversity and how it really depends on your local place. So it'll be a really great opportunity to showcase those kind of viewpoints as well.
So definitely, so all ages really interested in something like this.
Yes, I loved the film festival last year, and I'm so excited to be able to watch more of the great films. And they vary in length too, so you have shorter films, longer films, so it's a really great way to learn more. And
something for everyone.
Yes, it definitely is. It's one of my favorite times out of the year in Alpena. So
cool. Well, thanks, Megan, for being here.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk more about the Thunder Bay International Film Festival when we return. Welcome back to Insights. This morning we're discussing the Thunder Bay International Film Festival, and I'm joined by Stephanie Gondula. She's a maritime archaeologist at the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary and also a climate change interpreter. So we're talking about some of the films that are going to be shown at this festival, and a lot of them have to do with the idea of ice. So why is that?
So that's a great question. So we even added another evening to showcase these films that are focused on our polar regions, primarily the North Pole. And if you look in the news, and a lot of these documentaries are really focusing on these polar regions, and there's a number of reasons for that. It's in the news lately because of the ice caps are melting. The scientists have been researching this for many, many years, and ice caps are indeed melting. And there's so many different effects of that to the ecosystems, to the people, that's why ice is really a focus. Our Thursday night programs have a number of films based just on the North Pole, and they're beautiful films with barren, striking landscapes, but they are addressing serious issues.
And so, like you said, this has been in the news a lot lately, this climate change's effect on the polar ice caps. So what exactly is happening when you say the ice caps are melting?
That's a great question. We have all these sound bites out there, but it's tough sometimes to really get an understanding of, well, what does that mean? How do we even know these things? And that's one of the reasons I think Film Festival is a great resource, because it's a place to learn these things. I mean, just getting to watch all these movies to put on the festival, I get to learn these things myself. So back to your question, the polar ice caps are indeed melting. We have melting sea ice, and we also have ice melting on land. And what is happening, the trend has been, the long-term trends have been an upward climb in global temperatures, both ocean temperatures and air surface temperatures. And what that has done is decrease the surface area of these ice caps. And it's sort of a a cycle then, as anything in nature, when you decrease this surface area, so it's highly reflective, the ice caps are white, highly reflective, so the sun's rays are being reflected back rather than being absorbed. Once you have less and less ice, there's more heat being absorbed into the waters. And what that does then is affect the food chain, because you have more photosynthesis because of all the life being, in the waters. And that affects the food chain from the very bottom up. And then you also have changes in atmospheric and ocean currents around the world.
So with the increase in temperatures, that's actually warming the water temperature and melting ice, which is creating more water. So if there's excess of water, what actually happens to the oceans?
That's a great question. And let me back up a little bit to sort of explain this, how it's really getting warmer. Yeah. The way the world runs today is, power. There's electricity. If you look at one of our Science on a Sphere global images and you can see the lights around the globe, you really get an idea of that there's lights everywhere. We all use electricity. And when we use electricity, it's primarily fueled by burning fossil fuels. And when we burn fossil fuels, we emit carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And this isn't your regular carbon dioxide that is a natural part of our life systems, plants putting out carbon dioxide. This is what they call rampant, or a really excessive amount of carbon dioxide. So that gets released into the atmosphere, and it really creates like a like a heat trapping blanket. And so the heat is trapped, and so it just begets more heat and creates more heat. And so that's where we see these increase in temperatures, melting sea ice. And then what happens, the results or the effects are just across the board. The people that are living in the North Pole are seeing effects, right in front of them. The places that they used to snowmobile to hunt or sled dog to hunt are now much more dangerous to traverse. The animals are seeing the effects as well. Polar bears, for example, who use the ice to hunt, in fact, one of their main prey, the ringed seal, they live and dwell under the ice, and so the bears now have to travel a much further distance to find the ice, to find their prey, which results in less survival for the bears.
So obviously a negative effect at people living in the North Pole, but here at the 45th parallel, right. So not quite there, how does that have an effect on us, or why should we living here care about it?
That's a great question. It does seem pretty remote, the North Pole, very far away. But I think what the way we communicate today really demonstrates how interconnected we all are. If you look at Facebook, for example, look at how we're connected around the planet. So everything is connected. And one of I'd say the most direct results that affects the whole planet, that affects us here in Alpena, here in the Great Lakes, is rising sea levels. No, we're not next to an ocean or next to a coast. But with that interconnectedness, it definitely affects us. A lot of the transportation networks that we rely upon here to get the goods that we use here are based on the coast. And sea level rise has, which is one of the main results of these ice caps melting and of climate change, is really affecting dramatically these coastal regions. Baltimore is a great example. By 2050, they think that, or the scientists believe that it's going to be 2 feet higher sea level than it is right now.
And so this is a lot of obviously negative stuff that's happening as a result of climate change. What can people do so maybe help reverse its course or help out in any way?
And that's another great thing about the film festival, I think, is that it gives people ideas. So, it does seem overwhelming. The ice caps are melting. That seems, how do we do something about that? And what's exciting is these films and people around the world they show that communities are getting together to do things such as support energy that's not based on fossil fuels. So what you can do is, it's really, we're beyond now doing let's bike to work, which is still a wonderful, great thing to do. But we now need to do the community level solutions, such as supporting public transportation initiatives. So, write your representative and say, I really support the local trolley, for example. That's a great thing that people can do. And there is hope. There are people doing things right now that can, for sure, lessen our reliance on fossil fuels and hopefully turn the tide back.
And moving back to the topic of the film festival itself, besides, beautiful films and great imagery and stuff like that, why do you think people should come down and watch these films about climate change?
Well, oh gosh, I've got so many reasons. I could go on and on. I think you could come just for the pure enjoyment. So many of these films are just absolutely beautiful and are showcasing places around the world, many I had never even heard of, certainly I hadn't been to. And so you can see some beautiful animals, some beautiful scenery, some beautiful landscapes and seascapes. You can also learn. So while you're enjoying these films, you can definitely learn about these issues. And even though climate change is really touched on in most of the films because it really affects everything in our lives, there are many, many different subjects. One of my favorites is about a little girl who was faced with some physical challenges, who really wanted to learn to surf. She's like 7 years old or something, and this film explores how she became a great surfer. And there's also inspiration for the filmmaking process itself. I think a lot of students in our community, with the access we have to technology today, students are out there interested in becoming filmmakers, and they can come and meet with filmmakers, learn about the process, be inspired by people actually working in the field. It's also just a fun thing to do. Go hang out, have some hors d'oeuvres, sip some wine at the evening events, and watch some movies that you're really not going to see anywhere else.
Some great stuff, Stephanie. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
And don't go anywhere, because we have more insights coming up after the break. Welcome back to this edition of Insights, where we're discussing the Thunder Bay International Film Festival. I'm joined by John Bright. He's a survey archaeologist at the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And so we're going to discuss this topic of ocean noise, which I don't think many people know about. So what exactly is ocean noise?
Yeah, ocean noise is an emerging topic of research, and it is literally the study of man-made noise within the ocean. So it's things that are used to do research, like sonar equipment. It's the noise generated by the engines and propellers of commercial craft as they're moving through the shipping lanes. It's all of that man-made noise that permeates through water. And noise in the oceans is something that's a particularly interesting topic because water is so much denser than air, and sound is the most ideal way to move some type of communication or signal through the water. So just as the same as we use sound to study the oceans, just the same way that the things we do in the ocean create sound, many of the organisms that live in the ocean also have adapted to use sound. So large marine mammals like whales and dolphins communicate with sound waves, and in fact have very complex languages that are associated with very complex social hierarchies within their populations. They use sound to locate predators, to find prey, to look at habitat. It's all part of a really complex set of interactions they have with their environment. So you have natural sound that the animals use, and you have man-made sounds that we produce. In some cases we use it to study, in some cases we use it to explore. And so it's a new topic of research that's trying to find how the man-made sound and the natural sounds interact. And in some cases there are some negative interactions between man-made sound and natural sound.
So just bringing it back a little bit, this ocean noise is something that the military or archaeologists would use to kind of map out the ocean floor, because as you said, it's something that is able to permeate through the water better than...
Right. So yeah, so if you get on, for example, like just a watercraft, a boat, out in the marina, and you have a fish finder. That fish finder is connected to a transducer, which is a tiny sound generating device, and it sends a small sound wave out and measures the time it takes for that sound wave to go to the bottom, bounce off the bottom, and then come back to the sensor. That time delay can then be calculated, and you can figure out a depth. So it's something as simple as finding the depth of water, and then we can use that to then map large sections of the bottom of the lake or the ocean. We make nautical charts that way. We can characterize the return sound waves and even describe the kinds of habitat. Is it a rocky bottom? Is it a muddy bottom? That type of thing. So for research, there's a lot of applications for it. And in fact, we use sound waves to do acoustic surveys of the sanctuary to locate shipwrecks. And the military uses versions of sound in water through passive and active sonar, passive being like a microphone underwater that just listens, and you can hear those distant noises of ships traveling by, or the active sonar being waves that they broadcast out that are meant to detect things. And sometimes that active sonar can get so loud that it can interrupt the communications or even harm marine mammals that are in the vicinity of it.
So these mammals, they use a similar kind of ocean noise thing, so they can kind of go through the water, or like talk to their other animal friends.
All right. Well, their sound waves or their communication would be probably much more complex than what ours is, because they've had entire languages that we know they communicate. We don't really know what they're saying, but it is a sort of documented, complex interaction of how they communicate through sound.
And so one of the documentaries at the film festival kind of focuses on this idea. And what exactly is that documentary? What's it about?
So the documentary is called Sonic Sea. It's playing on Friday night the 27th here at the Great Lakes Maritime Heritage Center. It's an hour-long documentary made in the U.S., and it goes through this sort of description of what is ocean noise, how has human-generated ocean noise developed through time to the present state that we're at with all of these complex technologies and large amounts of shipping on the ocean, and then what are the natural ocean noises and how do these marine mammals communicate with that? What are the impacts of the two? How some specific instances with, for example, seismic testing for the oil and gas industry or the use of sonar by the military might be impacting these, and then some potential solutions for how we could make the human-generated noise in the ocean a little less harmful for the natural environment.
And so you were able to watch the whole documentary. So what was the biggest takeaway you got from it?
The biggest takeaway was looking at some of the actual data where they describe patterns of animals and as they change during different periods of, say, high shipping volume or during active military training exercises where they're using large fleets of vessels with active sonar going, and how they can see in real time the behavior of marine mammals changing.
And so why do you think people from the public should come see and learn about this idea of ocean noise?
Well, it's because it's an emerging topic, and we don't want to lose sight of the fact that there are issues that affect things that are in the ocean that might not necessarily affect us in the Great Lakes, but it is all connected. The same shipping that runs through the Great Lakes ultimately ends up in the ocean. The same sanctuary system that has a sanctuary here in Thunder Bay also has sanctuaries throughout the ocean that do have to grapple with this issue. So it's a great way to contextualize the specific types of research and science that we do here with what happens in other sanctuaries and how they handle some of those complex issues.
And are scientists working towards a way to maybe prevent the amount of noise we create that would kind of throw off these marine animals?
Right. Well, it's kind of a mitigation, right? We're going to travel on the ocean. We're going to have our military able to detect vessels. Those are all things that we need to do. So it's figuring out how do they coexist? How do we make commercial vessels quieter or find ways that they don't create as much background noise to disrupt the animals? Or how can we find ways for the Navy to conduct its testing and training in areas that are not concentrations of large marine mammal populations?
And so is this a film for all ages to come learn about something like this?
Well, there's parts of it that are a little sad. I mean, some of the animals, the marine mammals get hurt, but it is a very good, informative documentary.
Awesome. And so just very quickly, you said the 27th?
It's on the 27th, which is a Friday evening. The doors open at 6. The movies start showing at 7.
And if they want to read more about it, where can they go?
We've got a link on our website to the Film Festival program, and you can also look up the movie itself. It's got its own website as well.
All right, so some fascinating stuff. I hope everyone goes down and maybe checks this movie out.
Absolutely. We love to see them.
Definitely. Thanks for being here. And that will do it for this edition of Insights. So if you want to go down to the film festival, be sure to check it out all next week. And that's all we have for you this week. Be sure to join us again.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.